Okay, hey, I'm back. I'm just going to finish this up real quick and y'all can do your own marinating. This is part two of White Narcissism, written by Mr. Ron McDonald. Okay, generational transmission is a concept that we have learned from our studies of families. It was first expressed in the biblical saying, the iniquities of the fathers are visited upon the children and the children's children for the third and fourth generations. As psychotherapists learn more about our patients' family conflicts, we begin to see that most personal problems have their roots in problems that appear to have been passed down from generation to generation. An obvious example is the transmission of alcoholism. Okay? Alcoholics almost always have relatives from many generations who have been alcoholics or problem drinkers. And that's amazing because with the alcoholism, it can totally skip one generation and show up in the next generation. Um, I am the granddaughter of, on one side of my family, of just severe alcoholics. So while some of my uncles and aunts didn't drink, the ones that did drink were raging alcoholics. So I knew that if I started drinking, that I probably would have a propensity to drink because of, on one side of my family, there was a problem with alcoholism. Okay, so alcoholics almost always have relatives for many generations who have been alcoholics or problem drinkers. And the more we looked, the more we saw depression as inherited, anxiety as inherited, and psychosis as inherited as well. Just as some kinds of heart diseases are obviously transmitted from this generation to generation, psychologists and psychological problems are as well. White narcissism is generally transmitted to originating in our slave owner fragmentation of the 18th century. The psychological damage of white narcissism is still evident today. If you are a Caucasian, and particularly if you are a Southern white, you have within you the white narcissistic gene. You are part and parcel the problem. The sins of the father have been revisited onto you. The same is true for blacks and slave psychology. The trauma of oppression, losing your family connections, of inward powerlessness and rage. The sense of worthlessness lies dormant within, looking for a fuse to ignite an implosion or an explosion. Without awareness of the horrible infection within, the ignition will almost always be destructive and self-defeating. One reason why organized black protests of the 60s movements were so effective was because, number one, they acknowledged the negative infection within the hearts of black people, naming it and disarming it. And that's why you had the slogans like in the 60s, like, I'm black and I'm proud. I love to be beautiful, because we had to name it and try to deal with the psychosis and the damage from that, the residue from that thought process. Anyway, let me continue. Number two, they channeled the rage into effective and life-changing action. Number three, nonviolent action is a repudiation of the violent roots that lie in white narcissism. Let me repeat that. Nonviolent action is the repudiation of the violent roots of white narcissism. So they kind of let me know why Dr. King chose that train of thought because it made the most sense. Because this is a nation that is global with its narcissism. And there is nowhere in the world you're going to challenge that and with no weaponry. It's just an impossible feat. Anyway, it was easier for me to see slave psychology in my black patients than the white narcissism within myself. So we spend so much time looking at the trauma of being a slave or the powerlessness in the Jim Crow South, but with so little time admitting that we white folks have a very serious infection in our hearts. And this infection is called the infection of white narcissism. Ron, I want to thank you for writing that article. I think that article is very, very profound. I think it's very real. And that's something that people have to challenge themselves with, period. And it starts in your own family. What did Michael say? I'm starting with the man in the mirror. This is exactly where it starts. So, if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. And I will be back hopefully later with another video. Thanks for being out there in the mental house, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.